Good afternoon, everyone, and warm welcome to our very special program, the Emerging Shakti, creating new pathways in uncertain times. And we're very grateful that you've given us some of your Saturday afternoon to spend this very quality time with each other. And personally, I'm so interested in this topic. And the idea and how it came about to actually host this particular program was, it's actually a little bit of a delay from March. At some point in March, it was actually International Women's Day. And the reason why that initial program was postponed, it was because of the disruption of load shedding. And I think in some parts of the country, wherever you logged on from, it is still load shedding. I'm Divendi, by the way, and I'm in Durban. And for now, Durban is being saved from load shedding because we've had other complications with the flooding. And so Eskom has spared us from the load shedding for now. So I hope that your lights stay on for the duration of this program, because it will really be valuable to have you keep our company. Because the more of us that come together as women in support of each other, drawing from each other's experiences and from each other's presence, as well as just our warmth and compassion for each other, I think that's the strength and the sustenance that we take so that we have enough motivation and inspiration to continue moving forward in terms of actually keeping the self going, serving our families, friends, serving through the work that we do, and continuing to just serve in the community and society at large. And a group of us that actually initially sat to design this program came up with this concept because we were actually thinking about the very, very unique and valuable role that women around the world played at the time of COVID. Be it mums who are at home trying to protect their families, be it mums at home who were taking care of families or family members that were affected, be it mums who themselves might have been affected, be it ladies, whether they were mothers or not, but who were, in terms of their professional fields, in any way contributing towards society in terms of the COVID pandemic or the impact of the COVID pandemic, not necessarily health, but especially considering health, even in the fields of education, retail, whatever it might be. It was really, really a trying time for all of us. And I'm using the word was. I know it still does exist, but I think that huge edge is over in comparison to initially, although we still have to soldier on and really be, take precaution. And we were just marveling at the way women, because of their love, their deep love, and their strength and their courage, just adapted and adjusted. It's like the aim was still there. The aim was to sustain, to take care, to protect, to empower, to grow, to nurture. But circumstances sometimes prevented the old ways from working. And what women did is just found new ways. And that's actually what today's program is all about. And this term Shakti is very interesting. When I first really learned about the essence and the true meaning of the word Shakti, I was very inspired personally. It comes from the word Shak, S-H-A-K. And the word Shak actually means to do. So it's actually about action. And Shakti, coming from the word Shak, is that there is sacred energy, or what we can even call divine energy. And Shakti is the trust that a female actually has the capacity to translate that sacred or divine energy into motion. The one who has the capacity to actually put it into practice. And I really, really feel very happy about that. And so the Emerging Shakti is really such a wonderful concept. And today, each of our speakers, and we've got a beautiful blend of speakers from so many diverse backgrounds, wonderful experiences. You're going to enjoy hearing from all of them, and different age groups as well. We've got our wise women leaders, seasoned, experienced, and rich from all of the learnings that they've accumulated along the way in their journey. And then we've got the young emerging women leaders who are at the edge and about to make their mark in the world, or have already started, but still have a bit of a way to go. And we are keen to actually observe the interaction between the various members of our panel today, and just draw more and more learning and more empowerment from the interactions. So without further ado, I want to already start with introducing you to our very first wise woman elder speaker, who's Michelle Festus. And I was so impressed actually when I was reading the introduction of Michelle, because I would have never put Qigong and Tai Chi, which I've always thought were really soft and gentle activities, together with activism and gender equality and social justice. And so I'm so curious, Michelle, to actually find out how does that come together. And I'm sure in the work that you do, being a personal transformation coach, running a consultancy, and using Qigong and Tai Chi as media in the work that you do to really move people towards deeper levels of transformation, and especially focusing on gender equality and feminism, etc. I'm sure that there's been some remarkable experiences and discoveries, and I just feel that there's such a creative way that you've blended it together. So please, over to you. You've got about 8 minutes or so to share your experiences of being the Emerging Shakti with us, especially in that time of disruption in COVID, and just enlighten us further, please. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you very much, Devendri, and thank you to the Brahma Kumaris for the invitation. It's always a great honor to be in this space. And to come together. Unfortunately, we're still not doing all of this face to face, but from where we are. Just to start off, to give you an idea, yes, I have been working in the area of women's rights and feminism for a long time, before I actually got into Tai Chi and Qigong full time. And that's actually where I kind of learned about the ethic of care. And you're saying, like, how do we bring this together? And often, what I actually experienced was that we were giving so much in the social justice sector in terms of the work that we're doing of ourselves, and didn't really take care of ourselves, so that, in fact, let me speak for myself, that I was giving to the point where I was, an empty vessel, and really got really drained and had low energy levels. And something had to give, but slowly, I think over time, I'd already been doing Tai Chi then, but I'd not realized the significance of bringing Tai Chi, Qigong, and my activism work together. So what I've developed over the last while is actually what I call a feminist ethic of care, where caring for oneself, becomes in itself an act of revolutionary activism, and making that commitment to the self and going against, what society usually expects of us to constantly give. And also just learning new ways of giving to oneself, because no one actually rewards us for doing the work for the self. The fulfillment and the joy is really from being with ourselves in that space and gaining the fruits of our own labor. So initially it kind of, could feel that one is not doing much when you measure yourself against the kind of expectation that society has in terms of doing. So I also thought it's very interesting that you explained the origin of Shakti, like to do. But when you spoke about the translating of divine energy, I think it has to come from a place of being first. And so the Tai Chi and Qigong has really helped me to get into my center, to be in that place, to just be firstly before one starts doing, because often we get roped into doing, because we constantly want to do and constantly want to give. But what I've learned is that one has, the giving comes from a much deeper place when one first starts by connecting with the self from a place of stillness. And Tai Chi, in fact, is a form of meditation in movement. So it's really also, I've done quite a bit with the Brahma Kumaris, connecting also with the practice of meditation itself, of when one quiets the mind and relaxes the body, that you can experience harmony in that way. And just to say also that, and I realized also as I was going deeper and deeper into my practice, that is actually part of my healing journey. And particularly to help women, what we've seen through the process of COVID is actually a coming into being of a greater awareness of mental health issues. And what I've seen, just following news and so forth over the last while, that we become so much more aware of how many people struggle with mental health issues. And so Tai Chi and Qigong has actually also helped me. I don't know, but for people who don't know, but I was diagnosed with bipolar in 2005. And it is only many, many years later that I actually discovered the healing power of Tai Chi with my Tai Chi and Qigong practice, by quieting the mind and taking that time out for the self to re-energize and to lift my spirits in that way. And so just also what Tai Chi and Qigong has helped me to do is to really also be with my own fears and my own uncertainties, because when one is able to connect with the feelings inside, you're able to process it and then eventually to release it without just suppressing it. And I think it's when we suppress our feelings that we actually can become quite ill. And sometimes we do it unconsciously. But going into those practices has helped me to connect very deeply, with my own feelings without suppressing it. And it's not to say that if one starts practices like these, that things just disappear. But I think what I've learned is to simply find the balance. To find the balance when things are difficult. There are certain, besides my Tai Chi and Qigong, the practices that help me to sustain myself is meditation and gratitude journaling. So all of those come together to help me to find the joy and to remind myself of the joys in life that exist. And I think if we can remind ourselves of those things, even when it is difficult, And just to say that, it isn't always easy, even if one is on a spiritual path or one has spiritual practices, it can still be difficult. And on those days, I really just tell myself that, and honor myself for the things that I do, the little things we do, and through my Tai Chi practice, I've also learned, to honor myself and give myself the credit and the acknowledgement for taking the time for doing that practice that brings healing. Because often we are in search and we're looking for things outside of ourselves. So this has taught me that actually the answers are within, and we can find healing within ourselves. And the other practice that I have is spending time in nature, and that has become much more important for me. And I think also, especially during COVID, where we were locked inside for such a long time, and the pure joy of breathing naturally if one is in an open space, and to take the moments that we have to admire nature and to see what is there that actually sustains us in very, very small, many ways, whether it is the blue skies and the clouds or the butterflies that fly around, but stopping to see the little things in life that make a difference for us. And then I just wanted to point out some of the other things that I've learned through my Tai Chi practice. So through that is to connect, as I said earlier, with the body, to be aware of what energies come through the body, and to not suppress feelings, but to really be with it, and to find the foundation of being connected to the earth, and connecting to the elements around us in that way. The ethic of care I want to talk a little bit about is also I know that we spoke about us as particularly as mothers being protective and caring, but I just want to also caution that, that above all else, I think first and foremost, we have to care for ourselves. And I have found that in my life, that once I've prioritized my own health and healing, that it has translated into a positive connection with those around me. And I know it's sometimes difficult, especially if we feel so pressurized, but making that commitment and taking that priority for ourselves and our own lives, I think is very, very important, because it's only from that place, if we have a place of abundance, that we can start giving from that place and not from when we are depleted. Sorry. I've continued to train and to teach online. But also on days when I don't have clients, I think the important discipline really comes from continuing to practice on my own. So even if it's not just for other people, I know that this is a practice that can help me to sustain myself. In the fields of activism, we are often kind of drawn to and encouraged, as I said earlier, to give, but unless we can first start giving to ourselves, we won't be able to give to others. And it is that hope, of self-compassion and coming from that place of sharing, that we share from that place of a collective energy that we have built up over a while, and not just, through sporadic incidents, but trying to do a regular practice.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And there's been a few times in whatever you've shared that you've emphasized this whole aspect of really connecting with the self as the pivotal point and the first step of healing, but also actually serving. And it came out so clearly, and actually it's such a heart opener for me. It was such a heart opener for me to hear you share it in the way you did, because it's so gentle It's I think it's the gentlest form of activism that I've heard ever. So thank you very, very much for sharing. And I think everybody who has heard you share in these few minutes were very inspired. We wish we have more time, but actually we're going to bring you back in later on in the event where the young women will also want to hear more when they have questions.
Oh, thank you.
Pleasure. So now we're moving on to Bonini Kusano, who's actually a human behavior coach. And she actually was studying in one direction, which was brand marketing, but her calling drew her in a totally different direction. And she had this passion for wellness and healing, mind, body, soul. And at this point in time provides targeted and very effective evidence-based coaching to encourage her clients to very proactively take care of their mental health and their wellness, which is her priority. And this is something from Bonini's profile that I found very, very motivating. Passion is energy, and energy is what creates health. So without further ado, Bonini, please join us and elaborate further. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
I didn't know I said that. I didn't know I said that.
It was a moment of inspiration. We reminded you of what you said.
Right. We're going to be careful what we leave out there. Thank you so much. How do I pronounce your name?
Divendri.
Divindri, right?
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And I must say thank you as the Madam Speaker and for laying out the space for us. And thank you to Brahma Kumari. And thank you to the lead speaker, Michelle, for setting the tone for us. Michelle, I'm a protege of Michelle. Well, I'm not quite a Qigong teacher, but I continue, by the way, Michelle, to do some of your practices. You know, there are certain elements of Tai Chi that I still incorporate in some of my breath work as well. So like I have been introduced, my name is Bonini Kusano, born and bred in Lesotho, found myself being whisked away on a horse or with a mane into the other side of the world, which is here in South Africa. I'm married, I have 2 kids. I haven't lived for long, but I have lived and I have lived a life that has afforded me wisdom. And that's where the power of who I am today centers from, because there's this popular saying that say a person can be 80 years old but have lived for 5 years, meaning the other 75 years of their lives, they are still the 5-year-old person. So they're still stuck in their past. I would like to start my essence of understanding what today's topic is by drawing inspiration from both the previous speaker, Michelle, as well as how you unpacked, how the facilitator unpacked the word Shakti for us. Funny enough, I didn't know what it meant up until this moment, but it fitted in so perfectly with what I wanted to share with you today. So Michelle said, things don't just disappear. You know, when you prioritize yourself as a woman, your self-care and your self-healing happens. And that there is no further truth from that. There is no other wealth beyond those words. And when you then take that with what Shakti means, which is all about action and trusting the process of the action, it's why then we find ourselves that almost all change and all evolutionary aspects of ourselves as human beings were brought onto this earth by women. The key catalyst in change in almost all frameworks and all platforms is us as women. And it really touched me so deeply when you were unpacking that term for me, because I felt so honored. Firstly, honored to be part of this platform today. Beyond that, honored to carry the genes of being a woman. And knowing that inside of me, there is a generation of women that have raised me and helped me to understand what makes me who I am today. And what makes me who I am today was born out of the life experiences that I experienced. And it's not a lot of experiences. It's not a lot of deep-seated traumatic experiences, but the very significant and meaningful experiences that the universe afforded me allowed me to introduce me to a playground that I never ever imagined I could play in. An essence of knowing and evolving that no literature in terms of what we learn from academic spaces could have afforded me. But I had to trust a process that I didn't know. And that process drew me into understanding some of the cosmic elements that are part of us and we often take for granted. And the two of those cosmic elements for me that stand out, that continue to influence and affect who I am today, is the moon cycles as well as the seasons. It's so amazing that the topic of season seems to be, making a presence 2 weekends in a row. I had an honor of sharing the stage with Sister Pratibha last week, 5 days ago, and talking about the very essence of rhythms, the rhythms of nature. And once again, the topic of seasons was the key topic in which we were interacting with our audience. I often say in Bunini Speak, when I speak about seasons and how I interlace the wisdom of seasons and what they have done for me, I often start it this way. And I say, summer for me, beyond the beautiful, gentle rains, beyond the abundant harvest that we find ourselves exposed to, that feeds us, it's a season that speaks and lays out a playground that allows me to maneuver life from a place of ease, from a place of giving and receiving, from a place of feasting. And then I go beyond that and I take on autumn to be a season that allows me to understand my root system and what needs to feed my root system. And understanding what needs to be shared, what needs to be laid off, what needs to be reinforced, what needs to be unpacked. That which has allowed me to bear fruit in summer sometimes might meet or come to a dead end in autumn. And for us as humans, that is so hard because we want to hold on to things. We want to believe that, hey, I was laden with fruit couple of weeks ago, why am I still not, harvesting in the same manner? So when the seasons in combination with the moon cycles allowed me to see that change is inevitable, evolution is inevitable, and those two things require action. It allowed me then to also see winter as not just a fallow space, or season, but to see it with a different lens of harvest, to see it with a different understanding of what does it do for me that no academic accolades can do, that no wealth can do. And winter allows us then to go inward, to do that self-nourishment, to go in and really cocoon and release those oxytocin hormones and help us to love ourselves for who we are. And this is when the biggest challenge often starts to set, because when you don't allow yourself to love and nourish the essence of who you are during this particular season, particularly winter, come spring, we are sick. We are heavy, we go crazy. We have seen all of this in all the various, races and cultures and continents. We often see that people go crazy during the season of spring because they have carried so much in the winter, in the winter season, and they never allowed themselves during autumn to shed, to let go, you know. So there is space, there is relevance, there is significance in nature. Like Michelle said, we need to draw our energies from nature. We need to understand the role that nature plays for us in our journey of self-love, in our journey of self-healing, in our journey of evolution, in our journey of embracing the full tenets of evolving or emerging Shakti. So having said that, I have learned through this interaction of the moon cycles and the seasonal change that in order for us to grow, in order for us to emerge, in order for us to be extraordinary, as Sister Dipti would say, we need to go beyond that which we know. We need to let go of certain things that made us believe that who we are is a complete essence and a complete representation of who we need to be. You know, and in wrapping up, it's also about allowing ourselves to go beyond understanding our feels, beyond that which we are taught by literature, beyond what we are being taught by pop culture, beyond what our generations have embedded on us or shared on us. By allowing myself to work with these beautiful and natural cycles, it introduced me to a field of feels that sometimes when I go through them, I don't even know what they mean. As recent as 3 weeks ago, I went through an emotional process that had no name, but it allowed me to understand my roots, to understand how a particular aspect of my roots was enabling me to be, to really not feel, to see the full sense and experience the full sense of what else I could be. And this had everything to do with my parents, in particular my father. So sometimes we need to go that deep within ourselves. And in going that deep, trust me when I say, no role, no title, no profession, no COVID or essence of COVID or wave of COVID will allow you to get to the depth of that understanding beyond you understanding that universe will lead you. For me, I take COVID as a blessing. I have never looked at it any other way. From day one, when we started going crazy about it, I embraced it because I loved the stillness that came with it. I loved the minimization that it allowed us to navigate life from. I just loved the essence of feeling other people, of knowing that there's somebody who's suffering, that I need to reach out and check on. So life forced us to see beyond that which we already know. And once again, it was nature. So if we can just allow nature to show off and allow it to help us to navigate life from a place of ease, from a place of trusting that which we don't know, I say, bring on COVID. Allow other forms of COVID to come because they humble us and they remind us that we are not a superior living animal than others, that we are just as fragile as the ants, the rats, the monkeys, and every other living organism on this earth.
Thank you so much, Bonini. Well, Mother Nature is a woman too. So Mother Nature is part of our group. And I really love this model of flourishing that you shared by being guided by the energy, the unique energy of every season. And especially the way you described winter, you know, that I just connected with that feeling of hibernation, but the silence and the solitude and the introspection that you can really indulge in that time, which can, in a sense, really set the tone for the next period of abundance that will come in the new spring and the new summer and things. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we look forward to connecting with you in a short while towards the end of the program. And now we're going to move on to our next Wise Woman Elder, who is Sister Moira Lowe. Welcome, Sister Moira. Are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can see you. It's lovely to have you with us. Warm welcome.
Thank you.
So Sister Moira is born and educated in Argentina. She's actually logging on and joining us from South America. So we're very, very privileged to have you with us. Thank you. Sister Moira was a surgical nurse and she also studied museum administration. But at the age of 24, she set out on her own spiritual journey and she connected with her higher purpose. And she's been then with the Brahma Kumaris since that time. And now she plays quite a pivotal role in the Brahma Kumaris, especially the activities in the region of South America in terms of the coordination on a large scale. And it's a lot about her personal practices and the guidance and inspiration and mentorship and wisdom that Sister Moira shares on a personal level as a student of meditation as well as a teacher of meditation, but then also on an administrative and management level. And so we're very fortunate, Sister Moira, to have you to share with us your experiences on this topic of the emerging Shakti. And I also noticed from your profile that it shares here that your passion is to explore the spiritual nature of the self and to serve, to connect people to themselves and to the divine, and the need to experience inner peace and happiness. That's what we're all definitely looking for. So thank you, and over to you.
Thanks, Madhvi. Thank you so much. And I feel very privileged to be with you all, very inspired by Michelle, your sharing about the healing power of Tai Chi. And I was thinking I could do with more, I'm actually in the US right now. And this morning I walked past a Tai Chi class because I was preparing to come to be with you all. And I thought I could do with Tai Chi, but you added an element that really touches me at this point on my journey. And that is healing through Tai Chi is very interesting. And I also like, Bonini, your very inspiring courage to allow the emergence of that free expression of who you really are. And I totally agree that I wouldn't say COVID was a blessing, but I would say that the shutdown was a blessing. COVID did charge itself a very high price. But the shutdown, I think, that provided us an amazing space of learning and transformation. And when I think of this Shakti power, I would like to just share with you an expression of that so naturally moved us into the collective, the space of inclusiveness and of a different type of sharing and caring and loving. I was in India when the COVID started, so I managed to just slip into Argentina right on time before the president declared the shutdown. And as we were several people from Brahma Kumaris, we were all visiting India. So coming back to South America, we arrived one after the other like this. And suddenly it's as if we were in a cloud together, doing things together naturally, just allowing that expression of the pure intention of embracing the collective energy to benefit everyone. So in Latin America, we are 19 countries, but we became one. And this is, I would say, you were saying Shakti means action, no? The ability to do, but it's this Shakti power that is expressed in a very, very natural way where there's no comparison, there's no competition. It's just, we asked someone who is one of our seniors in Latin America. We said, can we create a map of specialities, that is what we're good at, each one of us, rather than being geographically, labeled somehow. And it is such fun when we just drop all the boundaries. There are no boundaries other than in our minds. And there is, Shakti creates togetherness in which everybody matters, everybody cares. So we grow together. And they say that you can go quite fast if you go on your own, but you go much further if we go together. And this is the magic of Shakti, that divine power that is expressed not only through our words or our actions, but the vision that we hold of each other in total acceptance and appreciation, and the enjoyment that comes from just being a family. In Brahma Kumaris, we have this strong vision of us as a spiritual family, but we are a global family, because we were not only together, all our different schools of meditation around the region, but embracing all our friends, our community through social media, everything became one. And Shakti has this power that takes us from the limited to the unlimited. And this is when we tap into our very core being. And it comes from what you were saying, Bonini, like that cocoon, that introspective mode that allows us to observe who we are and what is our true value. And then we are able to match that with how does the world need us? And this call of the time for women to step forward and just be themselves and embracing the world, not questioning how come it is the way it is or how did it become like that. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what we have to do now, being in the present and letting go of the past, letting go. And this is where the healing that you were both mentioning is so important. For me, my personal journey, these 2 years, so much erupted like a volcano, so much stuff. And I also had to deal with, the healing of traumas that had been, in a way, traveled with me as filters, and that came from my childhood. And I think that the gift of these 2 years was that we had the time and the space. And maybe I was not focused for quite a while, but at some point it was like, okay, sit down with it, get on with it, heal it, allow that to go, release, free it, and free yourself from it, the pain, the grudges, whatever was there. And so it's only Shakti power that will take us across that, because it's allowing the divinity, the original energy that lies within, that, that pure love, that power of creation that nurtures everything we do, that original peace, that strength that lies within, that allows us to be stable no matter what news we were listening to, what was going on around. My father passed away also from COVID last year. And I realized that it is what, my personal experience with him was like, I had such a vision of him also as a spiritual being. And this is where Shakti takes us to the real reality. He was only leaving his body. He was not going to disappear. So the way I connected with his moving on was so peaceful. I didn't shed one tear, and I was not suppressing anything. I was in that state of being, that of total acceptance and knowing that he was becoming free from whatever was holding him back as an aged old man with whatever he was going through, and he was just moving on. And one thing about this Shakti power, which is the power of good wishes, of very pure thinking, of high consciousness, is that it goes beyond us. It touches others, but it goes beyond space. And a very beautiful experience I had was that when my friends in the Brahma Kumari's world and other came to know that my dad had gone, it was like a tsunami of good wishes. And this is the divine power coming, I wouldn't say the universe, it's coming from souls, but it's coming across the universe in the direction of the intention it is serving. And my experience was perceiving that this soul who was leaving was in a whirl of white light, like cared for by angels from one body to the next. He was completely safe. I could only feel very happy for him. And I was in the midst of my family who were unhappy and very sad. They were losing their dad. And I felt completely different. And I thought, this is our divine vision of things, when we are not only, it is a quality within, but it is expressed through the way we understand life, the way we face challenges, the decisions that we make, the way we interact. Shakti power shines into relationships, shines into our workplace, shines into our family environment, and it is a power of creation. But it not only comes from being who I am. And Bonini, I'm seeing your expression, the way you shine your power, being yourself, allowing that freedom of expression. And that is the divinity coming through you. But Shakti also comes from the divine connection with the source. And this is where, this is what makes us unlimited. And a beautiful aspect of us, like regionally becoming one, is that we started thinking beyond limits. We started doing beyond our capacity. We were doing much more for many more people, but together. And this unifying power that Shakti has comes from also being united with the one, with the supreme, with the source of love, with the source of peace, of truth. And so when we are in the awareness of being the light, being the spiritual energy, life itself, in that awareness, this awakening, this spiritual awakening also awakens a deep, deep feeling of belonging to a source, we belong to each other, we belong to nature belongs to us. This belonging is a divine awareness that makes us so caring, where everything matters. It's not only people or children, what we do with nature, how we take care of our health, how we take care of our mind. So this belonging, and at the same time, not owning anything. And so when we come back into this divine connection with the source that is the source of unconditional love, of total acceptance, that heals the heart of the children, heals the heart of all souls, and allows the original to be expressed. So the fulfillment that comes from just being who we are, from being loved, from being worthy of divine protection and care and tuition and guidance, makes us awakens our rights. We have a right to be happy. We have a right to be loved. We have a right to be peaceful. But this is our Shakti emerging. We don't need then to own anything because we have everything. So Shakti brings us into a dimension, it's a subtle dimension of fulfillment and expressed through contentment. And that will be, be visible in the form of harmony in our relationships. And I realized that, this last year, I had to go, my dad passing away, I had to face a big challenge with my family, with my siblings, in terms of, inheritance and all these things that are very delicate. We were a very united family, but suddenly we came into chaos. But I kept the vision that, we are a family. We will always be a family, whether it's the cluster of my physical family or the larger family, the global family. We will always be a family. And Shakti allows us to embrace humanity as such. So Madhvi, I'll stop here. I know that your appearance is telling me my time's over.
Thank you. It would be wonderful to hear more and more from all three of our wise women elders. Actually, it's just that our time structure is such. But thank you so much, Sister Moira, and especially for bringing in that dimension of connecting to the source and this whole aspect of just deepening, but the deepening becoming unlimited. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you. And now we're going to move on to our emerging young leaders. And so I'd like to call upon Sarah Oliver, who's actually the Associate Director of Global Programs for Youth Engagement for the United Religions Initiative, also known as URI. And Sarah's actually been working in the interfaith sector for already 10 years now. And she works to support and connect and resource and inspire young people across the network. Her intention is to build capacity, especially capacity in young people, to lead and to create peace, creating peace in their own communities and creating peace around the world. So, Sarah, lots of big things that a young emerging leader has been doing, and you've been doing it for 10 years already. So we're very keen to hear more about your journey thus far. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Devendri and Om Shanti. Lovely to be here. Thank you to the Brahma Kumaris for the warm invitation. And I just want to say I feel so privileged to be part of this sacred circle, I want to call it, of women. Sister Moira, Benini, Michelle, you've set the context so beautifully for this conversation, and I have been completely inspired and resonated with so much of what has been shared. I'll just share that I'm calling from Cape Town today, and it's been pouring with rain, and the rain's just stopped, which I feel like is in line with this conversation. It feels like there's that stillness after the rain, and that's what this conversation has brought in me already, just a sense of stillness. So thank you for that. I wanted to just appreciate, Sister Moira, you'd said about how Shakti moves us from the limited to the unlimited, and that space of boundlessness and interconnection is just something that I think we are seeing more and more these days, and longing for, and particularly as young people, I just want to bring that in, longing for that, the interconnection and the sense of connection with people across all sorts of boundaries. That's very much where my heart and passion is in terms of the interfaith work that I do and the peace building work that I do. It's about bringing people together. And Bernini, I loved the reference to seasons that you brought up, and I wanted to just share that I feel like I experienced those seasons not just 4 times a year, but even like within a month or within a day. The up and down of our experiences and our emotions and journeying through this life, and in relation to this topic of how do we navigate change? How do we adapt and work with the disruptions that life brings? The seasons is a beautiful way to think about it and to frame the real turbulence of our experiences, I feel. In preparation for this, I was reading back through my journals of the last 2 years, actually, and trying to see what were the learnings that came out of it. And wow, there were so many. But one thing that stood out was that the up and downness of it all, and how I think that that's become the norm, and that's become what we've had to, you know, get used to and survive, really. And so finding those strategies of survival, which Michelle, you mentioned so beautifully, of the, you know, the lessons of self-care and the importance of looking after ourselves to be able to serve the world, have definitely been part of the learnings for me. I think I wouldn't have got through the last 2 years without things like my morning meditation practice. I have a practice of a bit of yoga and meditation and breathing techniques, and to have something like that just grounds me at the start of the day has been huge in allowing me to then get through what I need to get through as the day moves on. The other thing that's kept me going has definitely been movement. And I think you all made reference to this in terms of Michelle, the Tai Chi and Qigong, but the sense of movement that we feel, particularly as women, I think we're, you know, more, I want to say, connected with our bodies in that way, and able to feel the kind of movement that our bodies need, and definitely with processing emotions and moving through difficult periods, movement, whether it be yoga or dance, or I've just started roller skating as a new hobby, but finding these things that allow our bodies to move in different ways, and really lets the emotion and the energy sort of move through us has been really important for me. And the third thing of learning to see change as a constant, but also as something that brings us closer to where we're meant to be. And this is where I wanted to share that something that really got me through the last 2 years was a book, actually, and it was a book by Octavia Butler. Some of you might know her. It's called Parable of the Sower, and it's the story of a young girl who goes on a remarkable journey. It's set in the future, so it's set in 2024 in America, and the world has completely fallen apart. It's a complete dystopia. And this young girl goes on a journey of finding, well, firstly, discovering her own resilience, finding community and building community, and learning her capacity for feeling and for really sharing the pain of the world. And I just wanted to read the opening words of that book. Are a short verse. The book looks like this. And it's a short verse that says, "All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change." I'll read it again. "All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change." And those words have just stuck with me these last 2 years, just in terms of the interconnectedness, again, of what we experience, we change and it changes us. And that constant sort of evolution and process of emerging to become who we're meant to be in the world, and you know, the best and truest versions of ourselves. And this last bit about the only lasting truth is change and God is change, I think is just an interesting concept to kind of mull over and think about what that might look like and mean for all of us if we thought about the divine energy as change and as something that's always moving and alive within us. And in no way is this to romanticize change. I think we've definitely in kind of COVID seen that in some cases where you know, we try to be too positive about what has happened, because I think change is incredibly difficult and incredibly hard. I think last year, just to share, I had a life-changing sort of experience where in the space of 24 hours, everything that I knew that was real sort of got turned upside down, and I found myself in a different country, and because of a particular family incident and circumstances, everything that I thought was coming up in my life sort of turned on its head and looked completely different, and I needed to navigate that change, and it was scary. There was fear, there was uncertainty, there was a real sense of sort of desperateness about what do I do, where do I go, and so in no way are we trying to say that change is always beautiful and sort of romanticized in that way. It's really not. But it's in those moments that, and particularly the moments that I was experiencing last year, that I went back to this book, and I went back to all the inspiration and the people who have really, shown me what resilience looks like, what looking after oneself looks like, what caring for self and community looks like. And I sort of thought, right, like this is the moment we've trained for. This is the moment that we get to put all of those things into practice and use the tools and the skills that we've built up and really see how they play out. And I think, I wouldn't have been able to have got through that disruption of life without all those lessons and tools of the daily practice of movement, of self-care, of meditation, of teachings of spiritual leaders from all the traditions. And I think the more that we see that, well, through that experience, the point that I'm trying to make, I think, is that it really did and is continuing to bring me to a place of where I feel I'm on the right path, or on the path that I'm meant to be. And I think change and disruption, as chaotic as it is, does bring us closer to where we're meant to be in the world. So that's what I wanted to offer to you all today. And I have questions, so I'm looking forward to that part of the discussion. Thank you, Devinji.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And I'm so touched about the fact that you went through 2 years of your journals in preparation for this event. And then we got the benefit of actually catching a glimpse of all of your learnings over the past 2 years, which was very, very sweet. Thank you very much. And yes, definitely we're going to give you space for questions. So now moving on to our next young emerging leader, Simona Pillay. Welcome, Simona. Are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. So, okay, lovely to see you. Simona is actually a lecturer in the Department of Marketing Management. She's actually teaching at the University of Johannesburg. And I know that you're just on the edge of exams. And Simona's in the process of actually completing her PhD. So I don't envy you when it comes to completing a PhD. I know how intensive that can be. And the PhD is surrounding this theme of online consumer behavior. That's very interesting. Simona has also been meditating, and she's been engaging in this practice now for about 6 years. And from 2018, part of that meditation journey has included her introduction and her practice with the Brahma Kumaris. So warm welcome to you, Simona, and over to you.
Thank you, Sister Divinity, and good afternoon to everyone. I must say that I am very honored to be here on this talk today, and I've learned so much already. And I'm sitting here every time a speaker presents with goosebumps because I haven't met any of the speakers before, and I had made my notes and gone over my content to present a while ago. And so just listening to what everyone has said so far, there is such alignment behind the conversation today. And we are all finding it particularly strange that everyone is saying things and we're resonating with it. But I wouldn't say I find it strange. I think we have all come together for the purpose of this 2 hours to share with everyone our experiences and to hopefully help everyone or anyone that's been on the session and taken some value from it. So I think spiritual alignment is real, and because we have been reinforcing each other's points, there is definitely higher vibration regarding what we've been sharing, which I think is so powerful and relevant to the topic of Shakti. And Sister Devendri clarified the word so beautifully in the beginning. And what I've done is I have 3 points to talk about. And I'm going to be making reference to the speakers that brought up these points before me. And I think it's just so apt that I'm summarizing this discussion because everything that I've been wanting to speak about has been covered already. So I think just to reinforce, for me as a young emerging woman leader in this day and age, I think we feel a lot of pressure on us to conform to society, conform to norms, conform to what our families expect of us, our friends expect of us. And it got to a point for me where I was doing a lot for others. And as women, I think we do that quite commonly. You know, we are nurturers, we are caregivers, we are giving by nature, but sometimes we tend to give off too much. And that's what Michelle covered when she presented. So having done my introspection and having gone through a few personal experiences over the years, as we all have, I came up with a 3-point process, I'd like to call it, or it's more of a circular journey. You know, it doesn't have a starting point and there's no end point. I think it's a repetitive thing that happens whenever we are faced with uncertain times or changing circumstances. So the first step for me when faced with an uncertain time or a challenge or an obstacle is really the essence of self-awareness. And I think this has been unpacked quite beautifully by Michelle, and even Sarah mentioned a few points regarding just being aware of who you are, of the circumstances you've been placed in. And it takes a lot of humbling as well. Many of us fall victim to the situations we've been placed in, and we tend to blame the external for what we are experiencing. And the self-awareness for me comes in when I can sit back and realize that I have the power to control and change the way I react and I respond to whatever challenge that I'm faced with. So it does take a lot of humility to get down to the level where you can acknowledge that these things are happening and they're happening for a reason. And I might be the cause of some of the situations that I am faced with, and not to blame it on the external, but rather take accountability. And once we take that accountability, that for me is the first step to emerging that power, emerging that Shakti. Because it takes a lot. It takes a lot for someone to sit back and admit that they've done this wrong, or the way they've been experiencing things or living life, or the decisions they've made have led them up to this point. And so it does take a lot of introspection, yoga, meditation, journaling, you know, whatever is going to bring you to that point where you can fully admit to yourself that this is what is happening. The second point is stability. So what I've gathered from Sister Moira as well, speaking about acceptance, and Sarah mentioned this too, you know, change is inevitable. And I think a lot of us associate change with discomfort, which is normal, especially at this point in time. But I think as soon as we feel a little bit of discomfort, we start feeling the feelings of unhappiness, worry, anxiety, fear. And that's what we default to. We don't necessarily look at the change being something positive, like Bonini was mentioning. So to get to that place of stability takes, after you've done your self-awareness, takes a lot of understanding and a lot of acceptance. And what's really helped me the last 2 years is taking myself out of the victim mode, taking accountability for what is happening to me and the decisions that I need to make to better myself and make better decisions for myself in the face of uncertainty. And that for me is asking the question, why is this happening for me? Not what is happening to me or why is this happening to me? A lot of us, when we are faced with these challenges and things might go wrong, we ask, why is this happening to me? I don't deserve this. But in actual fact, whatever is happening for you. And I'm a full believer that the universe will never put something in your path that is not meant for you. Yes, it might be difficult initially to accept that bit of discomfort that you're facing, but ultimately in the end, the universe is working in alignment with you and the vibrations that you give off. And it and the higher power want what is best for you, provided that you give into that. And so Sarah mentioned resilience. And that's where I think a lot of young people are struggling because they are very resistant to change, particularly when it requires them to change something within them. And that has been something that I have learned over the years, especially, the last 2 years and personal things that have happened apart from COVID. It brought up a lot in me that I think I very subconsciously knew, but didn't want to admit to myself. I didn't want to admit that there are changes that needed to be made within myself if I am to grow and to become the best version of me. So that stability and that inner peace and that inner stillness comes from acceptance and understanding. And the last part of this process is Shakti. And I've termed it Shakti. When I was thinking of an easy way to remember this, I thought, let me just name the steps, the 3 S's. And the last part was the actual doing and implementing. And I struggled to come up with a term for it. And then I thought of Shakti being used as a verb and not a noun, as what many people would refer to it as. And I think there was such alignment with what Sister Devendra mentioned at the beginning, that Shakti is denoting the action of doing. And that is what comes after stability, that the doing, once you've accepted that this is happening for me and why it's happening for me, we can then take active steps to align ourselves with what the universe wants for us and accept that change and uncertainty as a way for us to grow, as a new pathway, as what the program's title mentions, creating new pathways. So using this energy of Shakti, which it has been mentioned, it's a divine energy and it's a feminine energy. And just because we are females doesn't mean we only have feminine energy. We have a combination of feminine and masculine energy. And as a young emerging woman, speaking on behalf of other women who are very career focused, career driven, they want to be independent, be able to break through the stereotypes of what a woman and a mother and a wife needs to be. We invoke a lot of masculine energy, and masculine energy relates to wanting to control, wanting to be organized all the time, wanting to have everything set in motion. Everything is very logical, very practical. There's a lot of reasoning behind it. And that comes with being career focused and career driven and conforming to those norms and conforming to the pressure that we feel. And personally, for me, you tend to forget that you actually have this divine Shakti, feminine power within you that is nurtured through creativity, movement, like was mentioned by Sarah and Michelle, being out there in nature, doing meditation, doing yoga. It comes from those things. We manifest the feminine power by doing those things. So for me, it's really about getting that balance between the masculine and feminine energy. And the point I'm at currently in my career and in my life, I feel that I need to be emerging more of that feminine Shakti power. And I've taken a lot of interesting points from the speakers previously as to how to go about doing that. So another thing I want to mention is that Sarah spoke about change being the norm. Change is normal. As soon as we find that we are uncomfortable in the face of change, we avoid. We stop, we avoid, we feel insecure, we feel anxious about it. But embracing that change and understanding that it's completely normal, we adopt a new mindset, and we then focus on, why is this happening for me? And yeah, I think I've taken a lot of valuable points from the previous speakers, and I hope that you've gained something valuable from my experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Simona. And I don't know, I was absolutely struck by this single-minded sort of, resolution internally that this is about me in terms of the accountability, that I have to actually make the change, that this is my responsibility. But the way you presented it, it came out with so much grace. That's what struck me. No trace of bitterness or no trace of pain or sorrow, but almost like understanding and accepting that I'm the one that's accountable was almost a liberation. That was your step to freedom. And that was the starting point of your whole journey of independence and release. And you shared some really valuable things. I really wish all 5 of our speakers could have an hour each to share. It's a pity that we had to condense the time that we gave you. And but anyway, it's like a bouquet that we have in front of us. And we have a few minutes available because we really wanted to allow our young emerging leaders to present a question or so each to our wise women elders. And Sarah, I know you mentioned earlier that you had a few questions in mind and you were looking forward to asking. So I want to hand over to you and not take up more time. And I do know that you might be having load shedding now. So I want to give you your opportunity to ask your questions before your load shedding may start.
Great, thank you, Sister Devinji. And yes, I hope it's okay if I ask maybe 2 questions and then they can see what you would like to respond to. But the first one actually links perfectly to what Simona was saying about just the conforming to society's pressure, particularly in the workspace, and needing to, the pressures of capitalism and production, and we've got to go and almost romanticizing this burnout experience. Michelle, you were speaking to that, and I just wondered if any of our wise woman elders would want to speak more to how you've navigated that, and how, particularly if there are any examples of how you've challenged it actively in a working environment. And my second question is just what has the role of other women been in your journey? I'm feeling very drawn at the moment to finding spaces of sisterhood and spaces of bringing women together, and I'd be curious how what role other women have played in your life, and whether you're feeling that importance of having other women to turn to for support, and what kind of support we can show each other going forward. So those are my 2 questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sarah. And over to our wise women elders, if someone would like to just step forward and take up maybe the first question.
I would love to.
And Sarah actually asked for a practical example.
Yes, I would love to take on the first question if the other 2 ladies don't mind.
Sure.
Okay. Particularly because I think this is my line of work. Burnout is a fancy and sexy term, allow me to say that, because by the time you get to that definition of it, the damage has already been done. And this damage comes in the form of mental instability or dis-ease that Michelle has mentioned, which is our fears, our anxiety, our OCD tendencies. So there are certain behavioral traits that you will find yourself actioning and committing to. And these behavioral traits will be as a result of the belief system that drive you, which then are born out of your value system, which is your decision-making criteria, which then defines who we are. So I will give you an example of how we lose sense of who we are and we end up getting to that state that is then defined as burnout is you know, that whole phase of wanting to be perfect, right? Doing things right, which is born out of either you wanting to please someone in your root system, your upbringing, your mother or father, or wanting to do better than your sibling. So you then strive towards that energy. And then whatever you're doing, you end up saying, it's me. I'm a highly strung person. I come from that. I used to define myself as fierce, right? I was a firecracker. I was a fireball. I was in your space. I will tell you, sir, who you are and where you come from, right? And I was proud of that. I did not realize that that was the wounded me. The wounded me who wanted a voice that I wasn't afforded to have as part of my upbringing. And I felt I wasn't allowed to have because of the meaning I attached to my past experiences. So that's what then led to that behavior. And I adopted that behavior then, which is quite energetic and it's depleting and it fed me. It gave me what I want. It was a drug. So at some point, which is the beauty of this thing called life and why it needs to evolve, and as you said beautifully, change is inevitable. That strategy will reach its shelf life. And it will exhaust you, even as you are expelling it yourself, the initiator, the creator of it, you will feel tired. And that's when now you will go to the doctor and the doctor will say, it's burnout. So you have been burning yourself out throughout, but you didn't realize because it fed you. It gave you what you want. So the universe will then bring on things into your space throughout the 4 seasons, as we've said, or the 12 months, or the 52 weeks of the year, of the 7 days of the week, or the 24-hour clock. That will start to show you that it's not working. But if you're so married to this identity, that's when the resistance keeps on coming in and it presents itself as an illness, as an imbalance to your energy, as exhaustion, as depression, as anxiety, as tendencies, as afflictions, all these other commitments that we find ourselves committed to and spending towards, which is sex and drugs and alcohol and all of that. So burnout is the term that we end up finding ourselves being labeled because it makes sense, but the process had been happening all along. So it is a commodity. It is what puts food on the table for me right now, because those are the breadcrumbs that I help my clients to understand. How did we get here? How did we get here? Then we are able to work backwards. And like kind of what was the Simone had explained, there is a cycle that has been happening all along. And it's a question of what tools are you using to navigate that cycle? Because it is those tools that will make you or break you. So she decided to change the meaning of those 3 pillars. And the minute she did, it elevated it. It gave her meaning. It gave her a sense of choice. So the meaning we attach to our experiences, what is what will make or break us.
Thank you, Bani. That's Beautiful.
I noticed that Michelle's got her video on, so I suspect you have something to add on to the topic of burnout, Michelle. Go ahead.
Yeah, Sarah, thank you. You spoke about, the capitalist nature and the focus on productivity, I think, and I've seen this with many organizations that I've worked in and with. There's that constant drive of doing and doing and doing and producing, and then we creating particular value systems where we ourselves buy into that, working 18-hour days, weekends, whatever. And so for me, in that situation, it will take an awareness of what that does. And which I spoke about earlier, that whole sense of the divine first being with that divine energy of Shakti, and realizing that that is actually not serving us, and it calls for, in organizations and institutions, it calls for a way of working differently. So for example, in my organization, one of the things that I introduced when I was working in an organization is to actually ask, and suggest things like, can we include Tai Chi or Qigong if we're doing a workshop, which helps us to stop and reflect, to start perhaps with a meditative or reflective practice. So all of those things, you can start introducing small things so that one focuses also on the way in which we are working and doing things, and not just on the doing. And that, I think, becomes very important, because then you also start honing in on, different people's experiences and their expertise, and starting to value that much more than just being focused on churning out, deliverables or focusing on outcomes. So it does require also a way of, like, a boundary for me in organizations of saying, certain ways we can't work in certain ways, and certain things doesn't serve us. And it does mean that we have to start speaking about those things in those institutions and those organizations, which are not always easy. Just an awareness of that. But definitely we are requiring, many organizations are starting to talk about mental health issues now because it's surfacing. But part of that, as Bonini said, the result is part of that working in a way that doesn't serve us. And then I just, while I'm on, just to touch on the thing of the role of other women on my journey, absolutely. I would not have been where I am if it's not been for the support of other women. From the Brahma Kumari sisters has always been there to support me, like, friends in my circle that have held my hand through difficult times. Sometimes it's to listen. Sometimes we do things together. For example, when we work, I've had workshops where we actually, we are a group of people where we say, okay, can we start a workshop or a process with a meditation? And if we're all into it and supporting each other to do that, that's helped a lot. Just people who have held my hand, and it is the majority of the people who've held my hand through the difficult times have been women. And just understanding each other and showing each other compassion. And
I noticed that Sister Moira has joined us. So do you have something to offer for the second question as well, Sister Moira? You need to unmute, Sister Moira.
Sorry. Thanks, Sarah, for those questions. And I loved listening to Michelle and Bonini's answers about your experience at work. Regarding taking help from other women or helping each other, my whole spiritual journey was a journey of receiving support from women, spiritual leadership. And what comes to my mind is the daddies, the co-founders of the Brahma Kumaris. One of our heads of the Brahma Kumaris for many years, when I started on this path 36 years ago, is called Daddy Prakash Mani. And she became someone very, very important in my life. And another Daddy Janki, and for different reasons. And what was a gift from them to me in terms of allowing my growth and allowing me to blossom was the high vision they held of me. And even at difficult times in which I had to, in a way, go to Daddy's lap and, ask for help to go through different crises on my journey, her vision never changed, never changed. It was always the same, always bringing me back to my self-respect. And I think that we as women can do so much together, and we can help each other and mean so much to each other if we can each one work within. And as Simone was saying, you know, take responsibility for how I feel and not project on others. And if I become accountable and stop playing the victim, you know, then it creates a safe space where even if we go through things, we're there for each other. And the whole world is looking at us, how we help each other, what we mean to each other. So I think in the Brahma Kumaris, it is, I think, the largest organization run by women. Of course, it's men and women, but there's a majority, there's more women, really. It's an example of this, you know, how we can work collaboratively. And it's a question of seeing each other's speciality, what we are good at, what flows naturally, what you shine through your eyes, you shine through your smile, you shine through your attitude and into your relationships, and everything you do is something that makes you unique. And when we hold this vision of each other, we could see this, and I'm sure Davindri and Dipti, who are in this call, we saw the daddies, how they held a huge organization of 1 million volunteers together with their unity, their example. We used to see them enjoy each other's company, and they were so different, and yet they were just one. When it came to doing things together, there was that oneness, and it was the love for God and God's love for them that kept them so united. So I think this is a very beautiful, beautiful time for all of us to prove that.
Can you just
and I just love that you're reminding me of the daddies. Thank you. You want to say something, Bonini?
Can I just throw in a spanner in the works, because, and I don't know if that's where you're coming from, Sarah, because we see these magnanimous women like your sister Moira, who in our eyes, we feel like they've already made it. But the story that you shared about your wounds from your past, I see you now as a human being. You know, in as much as I still admire you, your story allowed me to still have that trust that, oh, I can also get there. I can also get there. I can also heal. So sometimes, I know maybe it might not apply to you, Sarah, but to a degree, I think I experienced that, where I did not have a big pool of women to draw from within my root system, my support system, i.e. my family. Right? They did contribute, but in terms of the purity that I was yearning for, which I couldn't quite be defined, besides what my parents knew and my aunt and my sister, right? Which is drawing from the Bible or for them by past experiences. So the work that Brahma Kumari does, it's quite unique, and it fed what I needed because it was objective. It wasn't putting me in a silo of following a particular practice. It allowed me to understand the soul, you know, in its whole entirety, without associating it with a denomination or a religion, and just understand my being, the core existence of my being. So what I'm getting at is, in your current circles, you might not find women that feeds into what you feel you're yearning for. But trust me when I say the universe will lead you. The universe will give you those circles. The universe will give you that support system. So worry not if at all it's something that you feel you need to worry. Whatever it is that you feel that you're being drawn to, there will be a teacher. There will be a space. There will be time, there will be resources for it in whichever form you need it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And Simona, is there anything that you'd like to ask Maybe just one question, and then we'd like to actually close with the meditation. Just to our audience, I want to thank you for your patience and just ask if you can please spare us 10 more minutes of your time, because I know we're running over time. But as you can see, this is just a very rich engagement and we're all enjoying ourselves so much.
I do have a question. Initially, it was directed to Michelle, but I think anyone can come in here. Michelle mentioned that it's important to remain committed to yourself. And I think in the face of everything that we are trying to do, all the roles that we are trying to play as women, when you spoke about, it's not effective pouring from an empty cup, I think our nature is to nurture, our nature is to give, and sometimes we give too much. So how do we remain committed to ourselves and putting ourselves first despite all the expectations and all the obligations we feel to other people? Are you on mute, Bonini?
Bonini, you are muted. You can unmute and share.
Oh, okay. I was asking if Michelle is available to take that. I don't mind taking it.
Please go ahead, Bonini.
There are a couple of things that, and I maybe seem like I'm talking in an objective manner without giving you tactical, practical references on how to self-heal or how to make yourself a priority. I strongly believe, and I do know for sure because that's what life has presented to me. Number one, what you need to work on would be a very intimate lesson that will be brought to you. It'll be guided to you. It's something that you feel all of a sudden, I want to do this. Your teacher will not tell you, your mother will not tell you, your children will not tell you that. You will feel that strong sense of wanting to do something. And if it is for you, you will again be drawn to those spaces and time and resources. They will come, which is then becomes what you made reference to, serendipitous, where you feel like, oh my God, I knew I wanted this, but I didn't know it was going to come this way. So it's about allowing ourselves to grow without having a very targeted and well-planned plan of our identity. Not plans and goals of acquiring things, but defining who we are. For me, defining who we are is what feeds into that self-care kit. Because it's meant to be agile. It's meant to be fluid. It's meant to be what then allows you to change without effort, but feeling that you are always at the right time, at the right place, whether it is a problem or whether it is a challenge or whether it is a positive aspect that you find in yourself evolving or being presented to. So I hope that has answered your question, but I really feel, and I know for sure that if you can just allow yourself to just leave a degree of who you are or who you think you need to be to curiosity, you will continue and you will always be self-nourishing. Always.
Thank you, Bonini.
Thank you.
That's interesting, just creating a little bit of an opening and leaving more space. It's like an invitation, isn't it? An invitation for more. Thank you. So thank you all for your participation and your engagement. We'd like to just wrap up everything in a warm, wonderful blanket by doing a meditation, a guided meditation. And I'd like to actually invite Sister Moira to guide us into meditation. And Thereafter, I wish you all well. So if I don't get a chance to actually greet you before you leave after the meditation, I really just want to extend appreciation on behalf of the Brahma Kumaris for giving us your time this evening, and a special, special word of gratitude to our beautiful, beautiful speakers, all 5 of you. Thanks from the heart. Over to you.
Thanks, Davindri. On behalf of all of us, thank you for your beautiful words of inspiration, for the invitation as well. So let us sit comfortably and take a deep breath. Allow your body to relax. And as I inhale, my body relax, and I'm able to let go of any tension or discomfort as I exhale. Now I'll take all my attention inward to this sacred space behind my eyes, where I can feel my presence, my own company. And I'm able to observe who I am. I'm able to perceive the calm, living energy that I am, the light behind my eyes. I am the living being, conscious being. And as I look deep within myself, I'm able to perceive the soft energy of peace. As I emerge, the feeling of who I am, a peaceful being, powerful, a pure being, a spiritual being. And I feel completely free from influence, from fear or worry. I am peace, I'm present, I'm free. And with this awareness and in this feeling, I will take my attention deeper into silence, into the perception of a space of peace beyond all physical, beyond my body, beyond this material world, into a dimension of light, pure light, the light of peace, in the depth of silence. And I see myself as light. I am a being of light, completely free, in the presence of the source of peace, the Supreme Being, the source of unlimited, unconditional love, the one who knows me forever, who accepts me as I am. The one who loves me unconditionally. No questions, no judgment, total acceptance. This is divine love, divine power that reaches every corner of the soul of who I am, healing the wounds of the past, setting me free. No burden, no blame, no guilt. And I feel the dignity of being loved by God, the divine, supreme. This awareness of peace, of pure love, I'm in the feeling of the joy of being who I am. And I will return in this awareness of being a powerful Shakti soul. Shakti is my divinity, empowered by the source of power, by God. And in this awareness, I will come back with my attention to shine the light of who I am, to play my part, to share, to inspire, to care unconditionally. Because that is what I am, a loving being, a peaceful being, a Shakti. Om Shanti. Om means I, the soul. Shanti means peace. I am peace. Shakti. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Moira.
Thank you, Davindri, and thank you all.
Heartfelt gratitude and thank you so much. And best wishes to everyone as you move forward on your journey after having experienced this afternoon session. I'm sure you took something or many things that will enrich your life going forward. And so stay blessed and please keep in touch with us. And Sister Moira, we want much, much more of you. And hopefully you'll even be able to come to visit us physically in South Africa.
I'd love to come back. I'd love to come back to South Africa. I have South Africa very especially in my heart.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much. So take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.